I think it's fair to assume that most people see adaptability as this amazing capability of going through change, of welcoming the unknown, of embracing things that they have never lived up to that point. Well, it sounds good. It sounds, the good kind of trait to have these days. But I would pick on an element which might be counterintuitive, which is change. I would argue that you are adaptable by just being alive. The fact that you exist is proof of your adaptability. The problem with the word change is that it implies that what you have today in your life is not enough, is not good enough. And while this not good enoughness forces you in a way to go through life and do the next thing and be adaptable, it also comes with the negative byproduct of keeping you anxious and scared, right? Even the definition of courage, if you think about it, the most common definition of courage that I tend to resonate with, but I dislike one part of it, right, is that you act despite of being scared. Act despite of the fear that you're feeling. So if I were to be courageous at all times, it means that I would live in fear at all times, right? The definition of a courageous person is that they are always acting, but they are always also feeling scared. And I understand that this is something that we value, but is it a good way of living? Being scared? Acting or no acting? Is it okay to be always scared? I always, and even today, for a lack of a better framing yet, I use this word change a lot. Transformation, becoming someone new, someone better, someone else, the future version of yourself, which implies change. The problem with change is that you are by default rejecting the person you are currently seeing in the mirror, right? You are carrying this narrative in your mind that who you are today is not valuable enough, is not good enough. You need to change. You need to become someone else. But up to which point or how long will the person that you're seeing today in the mirror continue to become and be this kind of sacrifice, this kind of stepping stone, right? For you to get to wherever you want to go. This is, I think, the core tension for people's real, transformational journeys. We have a lot of elements, a lot of successful examples in society, in the media, on platforms like this, where they have transformed their lives for the better because they pushed through challenges, through hardship, through everything. Like, think David Goggins. What he achieved is amazing. From his humble beginnings, from that kind of domestic violent family he grew up in, and the kind of challenges he overcame, it's absolutely amazing, it's impressive. But he also lived in this kind of continuous, perpetual dissatisfaction with himself. This kind of, he's the perfect example of an adaptable person, right? He had to go through all those challenges to go to the next level, to achieve everything that he had to achieve. But he also, at the same time, lived in fear of falling back to the previous version of himself, in fear of confronting a tomorrow that would make him unhappy, in fear of, defaulting basically to a version of himself that he was not proud of. See, so he was always discarding and invalidating his previous identities, right, every single day, in the look of the next one, of the one of tomorrow. And there is a very nuanced thing here, because in a way, what he did indeed pushed him to become who he is today, this kind of incredibly resilient person. But he also lived his entire life in this state of perpetual, discarding, if you want, of what he achieved, of never feeling that this is okay, what he has today is okay, and he doesn't need to run 300 miles to accept himself and accept the previous versions of himself, who, by the way, sacrificed themselves, if you want, for him to reach this destination. So when is the time when he can be compassionate and empathic for himself? This desire of pushing through and becoming the next best version of yourself, which I'm also going through, right? I'm also going through this process. But I realized that it's a very important part of the transformation to honor the effort and the commitment of yourself every single day towards building this future, towards achieving this destination. So how can you keep going through hardship? How can you keep embracing challenges? How can you keep building a life that you have no means to anticipate because you never got the kind of, achievements that you are aspiring to get today? How can you do it? How can you be adaptable? How can you change yourself? How can you be courageous without living in fear, without fighting fear, without fighting weakness, without seeing yourself weak, without invalidating your progress and what you've built up to this point? How can you do all this? How can you keep being ambitious while caring for yourself every single day? This is my project. And I live in this tension, okay? I don't have a perfect solution for you. What I do have is, however, a growing recognition for my efforts every single day, in which I am not pushing myself for a change. I am honoring my future self with my current efforts. So I'm not trying to escape from my current condition for a better future condition, right? I don't hate myself today, so I want to do something in order to become someone else tomorrow that I won't hate, or that I will hate less. But rather, I do what I do today in terms of effort and fighting fear, if you want, for the sake of making my tomorrow self proud of myself today. So I'm not doing things because I'm afraid that my future self will hate me if I don't do it. I do it because I know he would love me independent of what I'm doing today. Do you see that difference? Most people, when they are scared and afraid, they are doing things out of fear. And when you act out of fear, you cannot be happy with yourself. You cannot live a peaceful life. You cannot enjoy the day-to-day, the simple things, because you think that those simple things are never enough, are never good enough. You can do better. You can make better things, greater things, more aspirational things, more impressive things. You have to keep up. And these voices in your head, they are basically forcing you into living for a future self that never gets to be really concrete, right? Because you are always living in this cycle. You are living in this cycle of permanent doing, right? In what I call the flow of happenings, somehow out of fear of future judgment of your own self from not doing the best you can today to reach whatever. But if you keep living like this, again, what I say today always is like, what you want to optimize in life is the quality of an ordinary day. Not for peak experiences, not something that you will achieve maybe in 5 years from now, because you have no guarantee that you will be even alive, in 5 years from now. Of course, there are high chances that you will, that I will, but you have no guarantee, of course. So instead of discarding and discounting the value of every single day until this day in 5 years that you believe will be worth all the efforts and all the sacrifice that you have done, why not embrace and be happy for every single day up to that point and live in the anticipatory excitement of that thing happening in 5 years from now, because you decided it will happen. And it might not happen in 5 years, it might happen in 4, it might happen in 7, doesn't matter. What it matters is that up to that point, you lived in this state of fulfillment. That you didn't discount the value and the joy of today on the back of a hypothetical, better, more glorious future. What's important is that you honor the present. What's important is that you recognize that the person you are seeing in the mirror always does its best to make you happier as you go along. No one wants to sabotage themselves willingly. Everyone is doing their best to make their future selves happier and proud and safe. And people do stupid things, right? Because they are afraid of this kind of disappointment in the future. They are afraid that they will build something that their future selves will discard, something that their future self will deem not being good enough. And then they cannot live with that feeling, right? They are afraid of not receiving love from their future selves. So they are basically, renouncing even life itself. So this is the biggest tragedy that we are living. It's not the conflict with, your family and your colleagues. It's the conflict with yourself. Because if you don't live the best time with yourself, if you don't have this good relationship with yourself, if you don't trust yourself, if you don't respect yourself, right? If you don't love yourself, then you don't have really anything else to offer to the world. And then we'll just compound on the sadness and the feeling of uselessness that you will continue to develop. You have to have something to offer in order to feel happy and good about yourself. And that thing that you have to offer has to be offered first to yourself. So, what if being adaptable means not, being courageous, which means acting despite fear? What if adaptability is not we living and doing things always in fear, and it means just owning the destination, owning the vision that you have for who you want to be in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and let that vision, let that identity of yourself that you already adopt, that you already acknowledge, that you already approve of, that you already agree with and appreciate and respect, why not let that identity force, in a way, the kind of resilience that you need as you go along in order to develop it? Why not let that identity help you in your progress towards reaching it? Why not let that person help you when times get hard. Because you are anyway doing it for that person, right? You are going through challenges, you are being adaptable, you are transforming, you are evolving, you are becoming that person. Why not let that person help you along the way? That person, once you acknowledge it, once you accept it internally that you will become it, it will be your guide along the way, right? Because it cannot not help you along the way, knowing that you are doing all this for it to exist. Can you see the subtle framing here? That identity that you want to embody in the future is something that has to be an internal decision only. And once you decided on that, there is no change to happen anymore. There is no adaptability. There is no transformation as such. It's just doing things in alignment with the values and the life that that person is living. And you cannot tell me, yes, but my future self in 5 years lives in a mansion in San Francisco, so I cannot do what he's doing. Well, I would argue that this is actually not really what you want. In 5 years from now, irrespective of where you live, in what mansion, and how much money you have, what you really care about is to be happy, is to be fulfilled, is to do the normal, natural things that you will do at that time, and have those things just give you this kind of sense of fulfillment and happiness and joy. Because of course, countless people that have unlimited riches and are miserable. You don't want that. You just want the basic human, happiness, this kind of natural, organic, freedom, liberty, however you want to call it, responsibility for yourself, that you have to give to yourself. And being happy is literally, removed from the material possessions that you have in your life. You think you might need those things because you don't have the means today to think about a way to get happy, right, in the future, unless you make more money, unless you have more riches, unless you whatever. But has nothing to do with it. Happiness is a decision. Happiness is a choice. It's something that you decide for yourself to live because simply you are living according to your values. And your future self will have similar values like you have today. What that future self might have on top is more trust in themselves. That future version of yourself, if indeed he or she does more amazing things, like also in terms of creating wealth and so on, does it because he or she believes in himself or herself more than you do today. They don't question their capabilities. They don't question anymore the means they have to reach whatever destination they want. They just do it, knowing that they can do it. They just act without being scared. They act, again, in this kind of appreciation for all those past selves that contributed to it being there, to that identity, being developed throughout time. And it also, right, this future identity also always operates in the knowing that its future identity will remember, its efforts. So instead of acting because of the fear that we might experience from our future self, not appreciating what we've built up to that point, act from the place of recognition and gratefulness and appreciation that your future self sees all the efforts that you are doing today. That all the efforts that you are doing today, all this going through challenges, through hardship, to doing new things, to be adaptable, all this effort is to create this better future for yourself. So your future self will happily assist you along the way, will give you the compassion that you need to not be scared anymore, to not be afraid, to not feel not good enough, because you are always good enough. You are always, every single day, doing the best you can to make your future self happy and proud of you. Right? Think about it. Let your future self dictate how you feel about yourself today. Don't be scared of it. Know that everything that you do today will be appreciated as you go along. Happy exploration.